Welcome to Head Talks Life in Lockdown podcast, brought to you by Lothian Events. Hello, Scott, and welcome to Head Talks podcast Life in Lockdown. How are you today?
Hey, Michael. Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you getting on?
I'm doing great. A little bit busy, but that's an odd thing for me to say during lockdown. But that's
it, isn't it?
We're coming out of it slightly, so I think that's kind of fair.
Yeah.
So,
no, thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, it'll be great to hear your perspective on lockdown and what you've been up to and how you've adapted and kind of a bit of information, because it'll be interesting to hear your point of view because of what job you also do, which means it's a little bit different.
Yes, of course.
My first question, I think we'll just kick it off, and the first question I'm going to ask is, how did you adapt to lockdown? How did that go? How did adapting to lockdown go at the very beginning?
Yeah, so we're week 13 into lockdown now, and kind of getting used to it, but at the start, it was a bit of a shock to the system. So I was probably a bit naive when we did go into lockdown. I thought, right, okay, maybe it'll be 3-4 weeks, maybe 6, and then we'll kind of be back to normality. But kind of just adapted to it. So during the week, Monday to Friday, I'm still working. So I'm working till about kind of 5 o'clock as usual. And then by the time I kind of have dinner, maybe go run, do a bit of exercise and stuff, then it's fine. I don't notice it as much. It's certainly from the start, it's been the weekends that I've noticed. So usually on the weekends, I'd like to do a social activity, go out with my friends, maybe go to the football, play some sports, for example, go to a gig, and it's that sort of thing that I've really been missing. So I did. It all kind of came to a grand halt and stopped back in March. So yeah, it was tough to deal with initially, but as I said, kind of getting into the routine of things now, where I've got my Monday to Friday where I'm working and I'm keeping busy, and then obviously working from home, getting used to that. But it's the weekends that I've noticed where there's a big difference in terms of what I've been doing during lockdown. So usually, for example, I do park run on a Saturday morning, obviously pre-lockdown. So that's something that I've really missed. But I've kind of been keeping up the routine of going out running, and still kind of getting out as much as I can. And yeah, kind of getting into the routine of things and making sure that I'm keeping myself busy, certainly at weekends, and using online technologies such as Zoom. So myself and a few friends, since the start of lockdown, I've been having a quiz every Friday, which is good. Have a few beers, and yeah, do the quiz on a Friday, which is some sort of normality, and it's good to catch up with your friends and family. So it's about using these technologies, certainly for me, and keeping that routine of things going during lockdown. But yeah, certainly, and I'm sure it is the same for most people, it was very difficult at the start.
I would say from everything you said so far is one of the things is you're saying you were a bit naive, going, oh, it's only going to be about 6 weeks and stuff like that. I don't think you're the only person that thought. I think everyone thought it's lockdown, it's going to be a couple of weeks, it's not going to be that bad, and now we are on like week 13, 14, whatever it is. I've lost track of them. I've stopped. Started to follow how many it was, and then now we're at the stage where I'm like, I don't know what week it is. But I think even myself, I was like, this isn't going to last ages. This is going to last maybe a month, maybe a little bit longer, but not like almost, I think it's like 3 months now, it feels like.
Yeah, so obviously, yeah, as you said, I didn't expect that at all, to be honest. Obviously, initially it was 3 weeks, and I remember watching that announcement from Boris Johnson that evening and thinking, this is crazy. But obviously it needed to happen to protect the NHS and make sure as minimal people got infected with the coronavirus as possible. But yeah, watching that announcement, it was just a shock to me, certainly. And I thought, right, okay, we've got 3 weeks and we'll maybe kind of see where things are. But yeah, it has kind of gone on a bit, but it's kind of normal life at the moment, and everyone's just kind of getting on with it.
One thing
Yeah.
I'd like to say is, I know from my partner's perspective, when Boris Johnson made that announcement, I think it was the Friday, to say, we're going to lockdown. I think at that point it was like the word I'm looking at is like smash and grab, but it was like a quick like shock. Like it wasn't a shock. We knew it was coming, but it was the fact it was just like that Friday there was no really anything up to it, and then it was just like, right, we're going in lockdown, and his work scrambled. Like was like, right,
Yeah.
we have to send a manager in. They have to do the books and things that need to be done so we can shut the shop for this time. It was like a whole big like. It wasn't like kind of said it was getting to the point. They weren't prepared. Did you think, when you obviously we're going to go on to your work, but do you think one of the things was, did you expect him to then go to lockdown, and then at that point were you like, right, because obviously it was a Friday, and then that's like, luckily I'm hoping you were a little bit prepared for it, because obviously
Yeah, so the college was actually in a fairly strong position with that. So I started working from home a week before that, and the majority of staff did start working from home. So the college was kind of prepared in that aspect, which was great. But obviously, there was some things with student learning, and the college did adapt well, and the students adapted well, and the staff adapted well, and certainly my team have done really well to adapt to that and working from home. But yeah, so when that announcement was made, the college was predominantly working from home, and students were learning from home anyway.
So that's good. So it
wasn't as much of a scramble that I know that obviously some organisations were dealing with, certainly retail.
Yeah.
But yeah, from a college perspective, obviously there was discussions and management kind of steering groups going on for the weeks leading up to that, in terms of the plans that were being put in place. So yeah, so we're in a better position for that aspect. But yeah, it's obviously week 13, 14, and it's certainly something that I didn't expect to go on as long as it did. But yeah, I've adapted, and certainly my hobbies have changed over the last 13, 14 weeks. So as I said, I usually kind of like to go out with my friends at the weekend, go to the football, go to a gig or something perhaps. But now it's kind of changed, and I've taken up gardening, for example, and I've started baking at the weekend. So that's certainly something that has changed during lockdown. I didn't really do it as much before, so did a kind of bit of baking with my gran, for example, or did a bit of gardening here and there. But certainly since lockdown, that's something that's kind of kept me busy. As doing the baking and the gardening, certainly at weekends, and amongst kind of going a walk and going a run, and it's kind of keeping your mind off things, and just kind of taking each day as it comes in terms of lockdown and not thinking too much into it. And yeah, that's certainly something that has helped me during this lockdown. So that's kind of how I've adapted to the situation. But certainly, every day is kind of learning from the experience. It's certainly both professionally and personally. And yeah.
So would you say one of the things is, obviously you mentioned at the beginning, you just want to get back into a routine. You've been doing that by coming up with things to do to keep yourself in a routine. You think that's benefiting your mental health part of yourself, like being able to keep you positive, not thinking, oh, I'm stuck in the house? Is it helping that part? Because I think everyone's mental health is important in lockdown. I think for people that live by themselves, like especially the elderly and single people that are single, they're living by themselves. I live with my partner, so it's not so bad, but there are some people that live by yourself, and I think for them there's no contact with other people at the beginning of lockdown. I think from what you're saying, routine's quite good, so that makes sense, because it gives you the ability to keep your mental health a bit like sanity about you.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. Obviously, mental health during this pandemic and all the time is a massive aspect. And it's obviously something that you do need to pay attention to, and something that you obviously need to control as the best you can. So yeah, as I said, having that routine and taking every day as an individual day. So it is difficult, as I'm sure for everyone, is maybe being on your own, or having plans cancelled, having holidays cancelled, not being able to see your friends and family, which certainly has been difficult, certainly for me. So once the lockdown restrictions started to ease, I had my family over for a barbecue, which was good, so out in the garden. So that was a couple of weeks ago. That was really nice. But yeah, certainly mental health is a massive aspect, and it has been highlighted by a number of sources. But there are a number of helplines and organisations out there to help people who are struggling with mental health. And so I'd encourage them to get in contact with these organisations and charities, because it certainly has been difficult for me. It's been difficult for the majority of people, to be honest. And there is a number of factors at play there. But it's certainly something that is very important to take care of your mental health. Everyone has mental health, and make sure you have a positive outlook as possible. And yeah, so that's kind of it. So yeah, it's definitely a big thing there.
No, that it does. You make total sense, and it is important. I think even for people that do live with their partner, I think I think at some points they're probably tripping over them and they want to kill them. I know sometimes I've had a moment where I'm like, I just want to not have you around because I need some just me time, and you don't get that because they're here. Which is it's not a bad thing, but I think but keeping positive is the main thing, and just
and another thing I'd like to add to that is using technologies. So using sort of Zoom and Skype and Teams, just to kind of catch up with that with people, if that is professionally or personally. So we use Teams in work, and we have weekly meetings with the team, one-to-ones, just to catch up. It doesn't even need to be work conversations, but it's a bit of kind of social interaction.
Yeah,
and then we're both
the big part, because I know that because I went to the college and I've worked with your team as an intern. There's moments where you'll just have a bit of banter with one another while you're working, and I think that part is things that people will miss when they're having that office environment. There is that you'll work, but then someone will come up to you and ask you a question. You'll have a bit of banter with the people you work with, like the team that you have, and things like that. And I think that part people are missing, and I think that's where it's because that's, I think, an important part of when you work in an environment like that. You get a social interaction as well.
Yeah, no, it certainly is, and it has been a shock, kind of working from home for the last 3 months. So I'm set up in my spare room. I'm lucky enough that I've got a spare room that I've kind of turned into an office. But it's that social interaction that is kind of missing. So obviously going across and having an informal talk with someone in your team or in another team, and it's difficult to obviously not kind of have that now. So it's obviously done through Teams or through email or through chat, which has been different, but it's kind of getting used to it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a team, so myself, Greg, Kirsten and Adam, so the team have still been working great from home, and they've still been working right through this period, so we are still virtually open as a college. And we're still kind of accepting applications, doing interviews the college is doing interviews with students, and we've still got our main kind of objectives and KPIs that we're working towards. So yeah, we've still been kept busy with all of that. Which is good.
I have to admit, you are doing a good job. You've sort of produced loads of stuff, and I've seen that the YouTube page is getting a lot more stuff on it, and I'm not going to say it in a bad way, but at some points I thought the YouTube page was underutilized, but I've seen more activity on it than I've ever seen before. There's Chef Andy's put up cook videos, which actually are really helpful. Some of them, you're like, oh, that's how to grow this, and I think people are engaging with that. Which is good. So I definitely say I think you're doing a good job. There's a lot.
That's it. No, cheers for that, Michael. Yeah, the team have been great. So we held our first virtual open day a couple of weeks ago. So that was a big project that the team have been working on for the past month or so. And it's still kind of growing as a college. So the college still wants to grow going forward. So we've just announced our start date for academic year 2020-21. So we're still obviously accepting applications and trying to grow as a college virtually. So we're using these technologies and things that probably will be in place going forward, even when we are back on college. there certainly will be learnings, both personally and professionally, that we will learn from this experience.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I'm just going to go back a question though, because I'm going to go back to coping with lockdown, because I didn't really ask that question, but you kind of covered it. But I just want to ask a couple of things. So you've been doing things like baking and things baking and some gardening, which have you never done because you've not really had time to do it? Because I know from statistically the UK is one of the most we are very, the last statistic I remember reading about the UK and working was we're very worked people. We love a bit of work, but we're one of the, I can't remember the exact words. It was like we're one of the nations that work the most, and I think it was something like that. And I was like, from what I'm seeing, people are like, we're working at home, but I'm getting to do stuff I've never really made time to do.
Yeah, so to be honest, mostly for me, it's the weekends. So during the kind of working week, I'm still doing the normal hours. So working kind of 8:30 till 4:30 and 9 till 5 type of thing. So I don't really have as much time during the week, but certainly at the weekends is a time when I've got more free time. So obviously, kind of a lot of plans are cancelled and stuff. So that's when I've been kind of taking up baking and gardening, which is good. So yeah, during the week, as I said, by the time we kind of have dinner, do a bit of exercise, maybe go a walk, go a run, watch something on TV, maybe read a bit of a book. Then that's kind of it during the week. But yeah, certainly the weekends at the start is when I found it most difficult, because that's usually when you have your most plans.
Yeah.
So you're usually at the football or out with friends, or you've got something planned. But that's certainly something that I've adapted to, and kind of changing my hobbies as doing some baking, doing some gardening, and going running, which has been good. And it's given me a bit of time to do that.
Yeah. That's it's because it's finding a way to still spend time with your friends, like using virtual, but you're finding other things to do, which is good. So you're able to do that. So I have to ask, what is the best thing you've baked then?
I've been making quite a lot of lemon curd actually, and dropping it into some family and friends. Made a Victoria sponge cake, but probably my favourite that I've made has been carrot cake. So I love a carrot cake. I've made that a couple of times. And I've made a few breads which have been quite good. So yeah, I've actually made quite a lot, but I think the carrot cake's probably my favourite. I've certainly I've got a sweet tooth
for carrot cake.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I have to admit, when you said bread there, I was going, I think the last thing I remember was one of my friends was trying to make sourdough.
Yeah.
And she found that really tricky.
Yeah, it can be. So the first batch that I made of bread was probably a bit tough, but the second batch turned out fairly well. And I've made some banana bread, like everyone else in Scotland. It seems I made banana bread a couple of times, which has worked out fairly well.
Apparently,
enjoyed that. So
I would say one of the most popular
really
things
popular.
I think loads of people have been baking that I've been hearing of is tablet. Is that a Scottish thing? I think it is, but it's like loads of people are making that. My gran's made loads of it, and she's by herself, but she's been putting little bags at the neighbours.
Yeah, so that's obviously a good community thing to do, isn't it? So, yeah, I've not made any tablet yet. I think it might be quite hard to do in terms of getting the right temperature for the sugar, but it's certainly something that I might give it a try in the next few weeks.
So that's good. It's good to hear that you've been doing baking and you've been doing other things to occupy your time. You're using technology to still engage with friends and family. Using like Zoom and Teams and things to be able to still have social interaction, which is great, because the way I look at it is, and this is the thing what lots of viewers think is, if we're in the era we're in now when this pandemic's happening, there is all this around. There's an app called House Party that's for having conversations that are fun and stuff, and there are people who are using that one as well as Zoom. And I'm like, right, okay, what would this have been like without this? So I think we've been very lucky, and I say this in a certain way, and I don't say like we're lucky it's a pandemic. I'm saying we're lucky when there has been a pandemic, what we have had to allow us to continue to be able to do certain parts of it, still have that social interaction with people, even though we're not there.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that. And it's certainly something that has been really useful to have that technology. But obviously now we're in phase one of the lockdown restrictions. It's good to obviously have that kind of face-to-face, albeit social distance, meetups with family. So as I said, I had my family over for a barbecue a couple of weeks ago, and maybe go a walk with my brother a couple of weeks ago, which was good, and kind of catch up. So it's also good to have the face-to-face where you can, at 2 meter distance, but obviously using predominantly online technologies.
So that's great to hear. So I'm just going to keep moving on. So I'm going to go to the third question now, which was, because everything you're saying is really good, and it's really good, and I think the listeners are going to find it great what you're saying, because they're going to get a different aspect from it, so it's great to hear what you're saying. So obviously you work at West Lothian College, you work in the marketing department.
Yep.
You're I think the senior marketing. I can't remember
marketing coordinator.
That's it. The marketing coordinator. Yeah. That's it. My brain was like, well, it's the marketing coordinator. You're one of them, and it'd be interesting to just hear, like, how is that role? Obviously, marketing is about engaging with the customer, which is the students at the college, finding out how they've been getting on and doing other things. But we'll start with the first part: is how is that role? I would say molded and had to have been kind of like molded like Play-Doh around the situation a lot, and having to adapt, not being on campus, engaging with the students when you need to.
Yeah, so as I said, we're quite lucky. We've still, the full team is still working, so we can kind of do everything that we can do on campus from home. So everything we can do remotely. So we're still obviously doing our main recruitment campaign, still updating the website, still doing the social media content, still doing key videos, still doing case studies with students. The one thing that has changed that we can't do, as you'll have anticipated, is on-campus events. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we were meant to have an open day on the 14th of March and then again in June. Yep. Obviously, these two events got postponed, but as I touched base with earlier, we ran a virtual open day a couple of weeks ago, so that was on the 4th of June. So that went fairly well, but that is the main thing that has changed, is obviously on-campus events, mm-hmm. certainly for us. But everything else for us, we can do from home. So the full team's still working, and they are doing really well to adapt to the situation. Still working towards our key objectives, both as a team and as a college. So we are still virtually open. And yeah, so that was part of the. So we've been working with colleges from across the sector, from across Scotland, to come up with key marketing campaigns. To make people aware that we are still virtually open for applications. And just because your life may be on hold doesn't mean your future needs to be. So we are encouraging people to apply for courses and think about their future for next year.
Yeah, so, I do like that. Yeah, that slogan's quite good.
Yeah. So yeah, everything's kind of still working towards the main objectives. And the main activities it would be if we were on campus. It's just kind of adapting to it and using technologies where we can.
So what I'm going to ask there then is, obviously part of your job role is doing certain things you need to do to engage students on the campus, but then you obviously have the other part, which is the physical interaction with the students, like doing on-campus events, like this like your open days, your graduations. First of all, I'm going to ask about obviously they're two the key ones: your open days to get people in the door, to be able to ask questions, and then graduation to celebrate the students. So I'm going to just ask the first one, which is your virtual open day. From what I saw online, even just afterwards, because obviously you put all the videos on YouTube, it was very good. Like, having the ability to just see the videos going around campus and stuff, that's a great way for people who not just for this open day, but when they look up the college, they can see around the facility before they even decide to even come or decide they want to come to an open day in the future. So it's got a lasting impact. But I just want to know, was it very successful compared to what you have on a physical open day? Like, was there, because I know from a physical open day helping you once, you have 400 to 500 people can walk through the door. Compared to online, there's always sometimes, especially being your first one, did you have a good uptake for that?
Yeah, so we had 179 people registered, and over 1,000 views on the sessions on YouTube within the first 24 hours. So that was 63 hours worth of viewing content for the open day, which was really successful. And as you said, people can watch the sessions back after the event as well, which gives them that opportunity if they missed the sign up or they missed the attendance at the event. But yeah, and the feedback was really positive as well. From the evaluation, yeah.
It sounds good. Did you have a target you wanted to get? Because I know on the open days you've had like, we want to get at least 500 people walk through the door. Did you have one for the open day? Did you miss that or did you smash that?
Yeah, so it was actually initially, as it was our first virtual open event, we set a target of 100 attendees. So we got 179, which is great. So we turned it around in just over 2 weeks, from kind of project idea to actual launch. So team were great and pulling it off, and all college staff that were involved were great. So there was over 50 staff involved in the sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And pulling that together. So yeah, it was a massive team effort from everyone across the college.
Well,
and yeah, the attendees definitely had a positive experience of that event.
So I just want to say, from I think myself and from all the listeners, being able to basically smash your target, getting almost 200 people, you were almost double by having 179 people. That is amazing for a first attempt at something that's never been done before by the college. So congratulations there. And I think the college is just brilliant in the fact that they've been able to do this and engage with it. I think all the listeners are probably thinking that is pretty impressive. You've turned an event around that was online in 2 weeks and still managed to smash that target number and achieve something that has a lasting impact that worked and was good. So yeah, congratulations to all your team and everything, because I think all the viewers are probably thinking the same thing.
Thanks for that, Michael. Yeah, it was a team effort from across the college. So yeah, from all the staff that are involved, all managers, and certainly my colleagues Greg, Kirsten and Adam, who've been great in pulling that together and facilitating the sessions, editing the videos, and recruitment of it. Promotion and the evaluation. So yeah, full team effort, and everyone kind of pulled it off, which is great. And as I said at the start, it's about adapting to the situation, which you need to do both professionally and personally. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the team have been great in that, and obviously working from home does come with its challenges, where you're working in the kitchen, where you're working in the spare room, where you're kind of in your own bedroom, or wherever that is. It obviously does come with its challenges. And it is difficult, and obviously that's something that we do recognise as a college as a difficult experience for everyone, and it's just being mindful of that.
So that's great. So the last part of that, there's two more things to ask, but one of them is basically, obviously you've had your open day, and one of the other major events the college does is its graduation. At the moment, the guidelines are still fluctuating and changing because we're changing phases. We're in phase 1. We'll probably eventually be in phase 2 and phase 3. Is the college starting to think of, is it doing this? Is it not? Is it going to adapt? Are you starting to think of that? Because I know it's a big part of one of the events you do every year for graduation, to give that students the appreciation. Are you starting to think of that now, how you could do it? Obviously, I would say, why are you maybe thinking of it now? But in my head, I'm like, well, we're going through this massive change now where we don't know, we know that we're in phase 1 now, but will we be out of all the phases by, I think it's September or October, or will we still be in a phase? Do you know what I mean? Is it something you're starting to think of now and think, how are we going to still have this one event we do?
Yeah, so we're following obviously NHS and government guidance on this. So there's a team at the college who are looking at our college graduation and what the alternatives may be. So it is certainly something that we are looking at, and something that we'll hopefully update everyone on soon. But yeah, rest assured, it is something that we're looking at as a college, and hopefully we'll have an answer across to all students as soon as possible.
Well, that's good, because at least I think for the viewers that are students listening and they've come to the college and they've done a year and they're like, oh, I'm going to not get graduation, hearing that the college is starting to think of something, I think that's going to help them have a positive mindset, going, oh, there's still going to be something, but at this moment you don't know what. But that, I think that's a good thing, because
it's certainly something that we're looking at.
I know for myself, I just did my HNC in events, and I was like, one thing I was really looking forward to was graduation, because I'm like, I've worked to get and obviously there might not be one, we don't know, but that puts me in a positive mindset, going, there's still going to be something to appreciate the students, which is good.
Yes, so obviously we do recognise as a college the massive achievement for everyone finishing a course, not just this year under the current circumstances, but to complete any college course is a massive achievement. So we obviously want to recognise that as a college. And yeah, obviously all students have worked very hard all year to achieve their qualification. So it's certainly something that we are looking at, and in terms of what plans we are going to put in place, and as I said, following NHS and government guidance on that, and yeah, something that we'll update
on. So the last part to that then about working from home is, are you working in your kitchen? Where are you working? I think you said you're working in your spare room, so you've got a room you can sit in and make like your office space that you've had?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm in a fairly fortunate position that I do have a spare room, so I've kind of set up a makeshift office in here. So I've got a spare table that I've got, and I've got my laptop working from that. So yeah, it's getting used to that now. I've messed around with the layout a few times, where I've sat in different positions, but now I'm looking out the window, which is a better view than looking at the wall where I was previously. But yeah, I obviously understand that some people aren't in that fortunate position, which is difficult. But yeah, so I'm working from the spare room. Yeah.
So is that the space when you walk in the morning, you go, right, work time, and when you leave it, you're like, no, work now?
Well, that's it. I think it is very important to switch off from your work, because that is something that certainly I thought when I started working from home. I'd never really worked from home, to be honest, before. I didn't know how it would kind of work for me, how successful it would be for me, and how much work I get done. But I've actually adapted to it, got used to it, and it's kind of similar to working in the office for me in terms of work that I'm doing. So, yeah. So
you've got that ability to switch off, because you can walk away and shut the door and not see it. For me,
so yeah, that's it. So
for quite a few people at the minute, I used to have that space, now I don't. So there's that part where you walk in the living room, which is where I've been working, and I'm like, this is where I work, and now I'm about to watch TV. It's really a weird, surreal thing, because it's like, I've just sat in here for 3-4 hours working, and now I'm going to sit and just relax in here, and I'm like, it feels surreal, because I'm like, do you know what I mean? But before, when I used to work from home, I could work in my office space, and now it's a bedroom, so I can't. So
well, that's it, yeah.
And it's just so surreal. Because at one point I could shut the door and isolate myself, and I'm in the room and I can work, and then I come out and then I go and do something else. But now I don't have that space because of lockdown, because there's nieces, so they're in the spare room. So I've lost my office space. So it's a bit surreal working in the living room.
Yeah, I think it is. It can be difficult to distance yourself, certainly working from home, from your work and home life. But obviously, what I would encourage is, where possible, try and switch off from work at a certain time, having that routine. Certainly that's helped for me, is actually having that routine where I do get up and I start work at the normal time that I would if I was in the office, for example, and I kind of try and switch off at the time when I would usually finish in the office. Otherwise, you could end up just kind of carrying on, and then it kind of blurs the lines between working and your home life. So it's good to actually switch off your laptop and go and do something else, if that is going out a walk, going out a run, doing some exercise, catching up with friends over Zoom, whatever that may be, any kind of downtime you have, certainly during the week. And it's actually separating the two, and making sure that you do have as positive mental health as possible. Yeah.
So, my last question into yourself, is there any tips or pointers you could give the listeners of the podcast, a way to keep positive, or things you've done that you found very helpful during this period of time?
Yeah, so it's probably things that I've touched on, but for me, certainly, and I'm sure for everyone, it has been a difficult period. But certainly for me, it's about keeping a routine. So making sure that you are, say, working, for example, if you're working from certain times, making sure you fit in a bit of exercise where you can, if that's walking, cycling, running, catch up with friends and family where possible on Zoom, and making sure you are just taking every day as it comes. So not looking too far ahead. So if you do look too far ahead, certainly at the start for me, and in April, if you look too far ahead and you think, oh, I've had this holiday cancelled, or I've had this gig cancelled, or I'll be months until football comes back, or you're not being to see your family and friends for ages. But what I found helpful was just taking every day as it comes. So making sure that you're just concentrating on that day where possible and what you're going to do, what's happening that day. So yeah, that would be my advice. And if you are struggling with poor mental health, then get in contact with organisations or the college. So there's so many charities, organisations that are out there that will be able to help you. So don't suffer in silence from that. There is so many organisations, and certainly the college is still here, and our support for learning team are still working. They'd be happy to help you out if you get in contact with them. So yeah, definitely I would encourage you to get in contact with any organisations if you are struggling during this period, because you're not the only one in that boat, and it's a difficult time for everyone. So certainly that would be my advice. And yeah, just adapt as best you can during the circumstances, and make sure that you are kind of keeping yourself busy where possible. If that is with baking, gardening, cooking, exercise, whatever that is, and whatever you can do during this period. That's what I would suggest, and that would be my kind of advice that I've taken from this.
No, I like that. I like that point. Keep yourself busy. It keeps your mindset somewhere positive, which is good. So I'm just going to say a couple of things. One is, if any viewers are interested in anything Scott has to say, you can obviously, you've listened to the podcast. The college's website will be linked below, along with our Facebook and Twitter page, so you can see what's been going on and how they're engaging. And you can also find out about the courses and stuff the college offer, because that's important. And you can also see what the college has been doing to support lockdown process. Other than that, though,
so yeah, thanks for having me on, Michael. And I'd just like to echo that point that the college is still open virtually, and that includes during the summer holidays for support for learning, finance advice, and applications. So just because your life is on hold doesn't mean your future needs to be. So if you're considering applying for a course with us, please do go onto our website and apply, and we'll happily help you out if you have any questions. And yeah, thanks for having me on, Michael. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on and getting your perspective as someone that works in a marketing environment who has a part of the role being interaction and engagement with people, because obviously that's a trickier thing to do in lockdown. So you've adapted to that quite well, which is quite here. So it's been a great pleasure to understand and also hear what you've been doing just to keep your own sanity in lockdown.
Well, that's it, yeah.
Home. And continue with the baking, and hopefully you can try another recipe and see how it comes out. But don't be making too much carrot cake now if it's your sweet tooth, because that's not.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I'll be putting on the weight if I keep up this baking.
Well,
so yeah, hopefully I'll make something else this weekend and let you know how it goes.
Definitely do. So we'll enjoy the rest of your day. And all I can say is it was a pleasure having you on, and thanks for letting us rather me ask you these questions that have letting our listeners get a different perspectives from lockdown. So thanks, Scott.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. Cheers, Michael.
If you want to find out about any more information that was discussed in this podcast, then click on the video description below and you'll be able to click on links that'll take you to certain websites and Facebook pages that were discussed within this podcast. If you want to keep up to date and follow our next podcast episode, then follow us on Facebook. The link's in the video description below. Give us a like on this video if you liked it so we can keep making more, and give us some comments and feedback you have on the episode. This episode of Head Talks was brought to you by Lothian Events, so follow us on Facebook and let us keep you up to date with what's going on.